Welcome to TechVets, the podcast, a show dedicated to exploring the world of tech and cybersecurity through the eyes of industry leaders and ex-forces personnel. In this show, it's all about how companies like Pega Systems are working with the MOD to upskill military personnel and deliver digital transformation across the armed forces. Joining us for this podcast is Australia-based Pega Client Success Manager and British Army veteran Mark Clayden, and Ken Stilwell, Chief Operating Officer at Pega, who joins us from just north of Boston in the USA. And we also have James Murphy, CEO at TechVets. Ken, can I start with you? Can we talk about how Pega has teamed up with TechVets over the Pega Academy? And you better tell me what the Pega Academy is, first of all.
Pega Academy is an environment, a resource tool to help individuals, teams that are focused on enabling our clients and other partners to become more skilled around our Pega solutions. So what Pega Academy is, the thing that's really unique about Pega Academy is it goes through a very content-rich kind of learning experience and then actually puts yourself into the solution. It's kind of very hands-on, where it walks you through different ways to build the product. It's kind of like when you come out of it, not only do you know all the content and the theory around, digital transformation, you also understand the practicality of how the solution can be configured and how flexible it is, et cetera. So our initiative is really to reach this rich pool of veterans across the world, where a lot of the discipline and skills that they've learned during their service time is very applicable to some of the solutions that we're helping provide, both commercial clients as well as government and defense entities as well. So we view it as just a great way to connect our solutions and how we scale the business, but also with a rich pool of very talented individuals around the world to be able to help further our mission.
And Pega itself, that's all about removing the layers of complexity in business software, isn't it? I think you talk about crushing complexity. So does Pega Academy cover that?
Yeah, so the main thing, one of the main differentiators that Pega has is we help clients that have very sophisticated environments to be able to execute work end to end in a more automated way, to take out the slowness, the unnecessary human interaction when you're trying to do very manual tasks at scale. And so the Pega is helping our clients to automate that, connect with all of the different pieces of that workflow or that journey for certain activities, like if you're onboarding a client, if you're originating a loan, or if you're processing a claim or a dispute, or onboarding a person for a health insurance plan. These are examples of how Pega helps. The concept of crushing complexity really comes into play, which is our solution is what we would call a low-code solution, which means that it's you don't need to have a senior computer engineer to be able to configure the system. All of us could do it with training that is available in Pega Academy. And the reality is, as we develop solutions as an industry, as a collective global industry, it becomes harder and harder to write code and constantly be dealing with that evolution of how products. So we want to make it easier for our clients, and actually, quite frankly, you can deal with more agility as things change. All of us can configure and change the solution and let it evolve. And that's really the concept of solving the digital transformation with crushing complexity, not making building a system as complex as it used to be 10, 20, 30 years ago. So that's kind of where the industry has been evolving.
James, you're the boss of TechVets. How does Pega Academy work for TechVets?
I think straight away, the point that Ken made is very important. The fact that it's low code means that the members that we have coming out of the military in far more technical military careers nowadays than what it was 5, 10, 15 years ago, but not necessarily writing code. Technical mindsets, working with weapon systems or technical problems, but not necessarily writing code. And what this does is help them get a really sort of strong foothold in a very positive career in tech, where they're building, creating, and managing platforms in a low-code way, which is really good. That way they can then focus on the real in-demand skills as well, because people can access Pega Academy and get these skills, but what's also in great demand are those soft skills that veterans bring, the ability to have those, to go out to a client and work through a problem set with them and define their requirements and help work through their challenges. But also selling products is also in there as well. And I think what Pega Academy does for TechVets, providing access to all of our members, which is incredible. It gives them specific pathways. And we've got two primary sort of recommended missions to go in as a business architect or a solutions architect. And these are really cool because people can literally start at point zero, see that pathway in front of them and what's involved in getting there. And at the end of that, they are a certified skilled individual that can then also bring their military experience and soft skills to bear, land a role, with any number of the plethora of companies using Pega Systems.
And just if I could add one thing to what James said, if you think about what a business architect does, they're really a sort of a translation layer between the users of the system and what their demands and their experiences are, and the actual system and how it's architected and how it solves that problem. So you don't go from a user to someone writing code. You have almost a translation layer of someone that's understanding how processes are built, but also what is the outcome that you're trying to accomplish? Is it logistics for trying to determine where equipment is and how does that work? And then, but the great thing with Pega is because it's low code, that business architect can actually transition into configuring the system as well. And that's where you can actually build a very rewarding career as a business architect, but some people decide to move even further towards the solution and become a little bit more technical depending on their own skill set and their preference and their interest levels. So that's kind of, there's a journey that you can take.
And there's other content on there as well. Sorry, what I like about it is they can go down one of these routes. For example, let's say they want to be a systems architect, but also they never would have used certain products and tools like Jira, for example. Again, that's on there. There's other things on there that they can round out their skills, so they have this really specific pathway. And then once they're getting through that and they've got that momentum going, they can start plugging away at various other bits as well, which is going to give them this whole sort of repertoire of skills at the end, plus a certification that really is going to have an impact on them finding a job.
Now, Mark, as well as being a client manager for Pega, you're a veteran, and I think you could probably see how Pega Academy could work for somebody leaving the army. Can you explain in your role as guinea pig how it could have worked for you?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I think that the first thing is the amount that I could have learned while I was waiting for my 12 months, because my resignation period was 12 months. And I was waiting way back when I did it for resettlement courses. And the only time to actually see that technology, because I could never afford the license, was only doing the course. And it was only for a particular period of time for that 1 week. So now, with Pega Academy opened up, and as all the good points already mentioned is, you could say you want to be a business architect, and it starts you right at the very basics, even down to the project management methodologies and our Pega Express methodology. So over that 12-month period, because we all know sometimes it's scary, going from a career, and I joined at 16, and this was this new civvy world. You want to be as well equipped. We had the 5 Ps in the military, and it's all about that preparation and planning for that next journey. So having access to understand, the methodologies around Pega Express and how projects are done in the technology land, and you're not even out. You're certified, you're not even out, and you're already starting. I mean, the other thing is things like, LinkedIn and networking. So you're getting your certification, you're putting that on LinkedIn, you're looking for that network out there who maybe can give you that first opportunity, because that's all you need. And, with the skills and traits from a service personnel, I'm confident you excel.
So what did happen to you then? If you didn't do Pega Academy because it wasn't around, how did you go from where you were in the British Army to Pega today?
Yeah, well, that's actually a pretty long journey. But I suppose if we just break it down to, how I got into the technology side and kind of leaving the British Army was, I talked about the resettlement. We were given X amount of dollars. I did my Microsoft qualification. And to be honest, a little bit of a shotgun. I did my Novell qualification. I did City and Guilds in maintenance in case I was fixing computers. And I think a transport manager, just to really shotgun it. But I was fortunate because the course I was doing, the Microsoft course, the team that were running that were ex-service personnel running for resettlement. And then they ended up offering me an instructor because I was, enthusiastic. I was then going to be able to instruct on those courses and use that instructor skills that you get from the military as well. But at the same time, I had another opportunity at Primus, a telecommunications company. So I just thought maybe just do the break, get straight into the real world, and then the career took off from there.
Ken, it's a low code environment you're promoting, isn't it? And I mean, does that help a veteran because starting like Mark did from a position of having to do a lot of courses, or does it make it too simple in some ways? I'm trying not to criticise it, but do you see what I'm saying? That might be too simple.
So there's there's different levels of understanding what Pega does, right? And so there's more of an administrator type role, which really is I would say more like an IT manager kind of infrastructure support, making sure that you check users and deal with multi-factor authentication and access point. It's not really in the system itself. That is, I would say, more on the, I don't want to say junior, but more on the maybe less technical side. And the system engineer, the lead system architect or the senior system architect, that's more on the technical side. Where the low code is, I would say, the most applicable is where you get into that business architect, right? And because most people have not a technical degree, but certainly technical competence or an acclamation. And if you think about people that come out of the military, they're working with systems. They understand the concept of processes. They understand, but they may not be a computer engineer, right? And so in order to allow them to contribute to the content of it, they need to understand like how to create a case type, how to create stages in a case using kind of a user interface that's not. So when we say low code, it's not like a at sum in Excel where it's that simple, right? You do need to understand kind of how the relationship, how to create an integration, but you don't have to write the Java code or you don't have to write the C++, and that's the real difference. But you still have to have kind of a technical kind of slant to the way that you think, because if you don't have that concept of how systems operate and how you design them, you would probably not be as proficient. So I would say that's why we call it low code. It's not really writing the code, but it still does have a code kind of build solution mindset.
And how is it going to affect military software? I mean, this is taking the low code subjects on a bit. Where do you see Pega working with the military with this system?
So if you think about, I mean, this is, the military is not dissimilar to a lot of the commercial use cases as well, which is what evolves over time. We learn, right? So we learn to do things differently. We develop new technologies. The military develops new technologies. We have new relationships and interfaces with different governments, with different entities, right? I mean, that you see that changes just, we have one unfortunately happening right now where there will be a change in probably the relationship with a country. You also have different personas. You have different users that change over time. Look at the role of like logistics now versus the role of logistics maybe 20 or 30 years ago. Like, so things evolve, the systems evolve. So the reason why low code is so applicable to, say, military is because as the systems evolve, you don't have to live with an old legacy system. But what you can do is you can take a system that is built on a low code platform and you can evolve it. You can make it more agile. You can make it relevant to the use cases today that may be very different than the use cases 5 years ago. And I think, certainly in the military space, I mean, it's an ever evolving landscape, and you don't want to have to rebuild a system that you built 10 years ago that might actually isn't as applicable. And that's what happens. You kind of have that, if without a low code approach, you have to rewrite the code and you have to figure out how to migrate all the information. And that all obviously is a risk. to the military missions if your systems are not stable or not reliable and you're going through that level of kind of transition or migration from one system to another. So what low code can help you with is to have a system that can constantly evolve and modernize over time without risk to the underlying mission of the system.
Oh, that's fascinating. So, Mark, are you selling this system to military clients? I mean, are you in this because you have got military? You're in this because you've got your military experience. But does that mean military clients for you?
Not necessarily. I do have defence as one of the federal, in my portfolio. But I look after Service Australia. I look after IP Australia, who do patents and trademarks. So just being ex-military doesn't always mean you have to stay with military. But I have a connection there. If there's anything I could ever do using technology to save, surface personnel's life, I'd like to be part of that. So is there anything we can do better that, for my brethren, whether it's getting equipment out faster, some things are small. We in Australia, we have something about, for me, that's the total well-being of a service personnel. We've got a posting out app that's been developed on Pega. And, the whole posting thing and moving can be stressful. I think they say it's one of the top 5 stresses in life. But we've got an application now that connects into the removal list. It connects into the housing assets. It connects into the forms and checklists. But more than that, it's also open up to the partners who can then go on the app. Where are we? When's the check-in date for the march-in orders? So that well-being to get the service personnel the best experience, because they're doing a lot for our country. So that's kind of where I'm passionate. So I do get naturally attracted to anything we can do to enable service personnel.
Is this a level of automation you could imagine when you were back in the British Army?
No, I just remember being very bureaucratic. I mean, I kind of, I was listening to what was being said, and I was just thinking, through automation, we can get the speed, we can get the agility, we can get a better service person experience. I think back to the Gulf War, because it probably shows my age a bit now. But we had NBC suits were all olive green. Our DPM were black and green. And we needed different equipment. But it takes, a big ship to turn to be able to, work out how procurement works for the new things. How do we fix the helicopters? Because all the sand's coming in. We're not used to that environment. But I think through the automation these days, we can be a lot more agile in the military, because we have multiple, threats that face us, whether it's cybersecurity, even down to COVID and how we've had to redeploy troops. And we've definitely done that in Australia to help out state governments. But through understanding and getting systems, modernized to be agile, we can do so much more and so much quicker.
James, do you see veterans leaving today better at this kind of thing? Does that matter, I suppose, is the question.
It really does matter. I think the MOD, it's a huge organisation and institution, and it's so complex. I don't know any other organisation in the world, other than a military, that has that many capabilities that it's trying to deliver, that are so diverse from one another. It's very complex, and it will be bureaucratic. But movement is happening, change is happening. More technical roles are being developed, on a month-by-month basis. Cybersecurity capabilities, infrastructure, networking capabilities, etc. And that's going to increase. But actually what we've also seen, and certainly in my 2 decades, there was a huge difference from when I joined and I learned the SA80 and the GPMG to when I was leaving and people were using monocular, night vision stuff, and they were using GPS trackers and Bowman comms radios that you could reach someone on the other side of the world if you had the right masts up. Using combat in the field. And now we've got fantastic organisations that are bringing virtual reality training, gamified training back into defence. So people are using real sort of leading, next gen technologies to do stuff. So I think generally even the standard private soldier is, and Ken mentioned it a minute ago, the standard private soldier in the infantry is dealing with a lot of processes and a lot of systems. When you think about someone who's going into combat, you've got your preparation for battle, which has all sorts of acronyms and mnemonics and stuff that they use to try to work out a process so they don't miss anything off. And then you've got the 6-section battle drills, you've got the platoon battle drills, you've got the drills for in defense, the drills for recce, and all of these things have to be learned, as well as all the skills and drills of the weapon systems and everything else. And then you add the complexity of operating in another country where you have to have some sort of very basic language. You've got to understand the customs, the culture, the toings and froings of villages. We've just had, Afghanistan clearly is in the news at the moment. And that was decades of people fighting in very, very complex environments. And these guys and girls are now leaving. Now, what they don't have is specific exposure to some of these technologies. But as Ken said, they have the mindset. And as Mark has done, he's used that military experience, that mindset to move into technology. So I think it's very important to recognise that, like generally across society, people are more technically aware these days. Military in particular, because the processes and the systems that they have to use are more technically minded and understand technological concepts quite well. But they also have the other stuff that's great for a consultant, for example. I mean, we put more people into consulting roles than any other. And then when you add to that an opportunity that Pega have provided, and this isn't just an organisation, by the way, that said, do you know what, we want to make shed loads of money out of you, so we're going to offer you this platform. Because it has to be mutually beneficial. There has to be an economic benefit for Pega, otherwise the partnership wouldn't work. And that's it. I don't like to work in any other way, otherwise if there's no benefit for them, there won't be any value for us. But what they've done is provided that platform. And even the other day, I had a member of the team email me just to see how I was getting on, because they knew I'd served, given Afghan was in the news. That's the incredible amount of support and perception, I suppose, that their teams have of the military community. So I think it's very important that people understand the skills that they have coming out, but also the value that Pega place on these individuals. And then when you're given, as Mark and I weren't necessarily, start at 0, and when you get to 10, you're going to be, ready to pick up a role that could give you anything up to 60, 70, 80k a year, potentially, depending on how technical, what technical route you use. That's incredible. And that's 100% free of charge. All they've got to do is apply themselves. They've just got to have that right guidance to know that's a good start point for them. And they've just got to have, that end goal. You give them that end goal. The only thing that they will struggle to do is to not go beyond it. That they want to smash it out the park.
So was that a Pega staff member who contacted you about Afghanistan?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I work very closely with Michael, who's a German veteran. But additionally, there's other members of the team who have veteran families or are veterans themselves. Or neither, but appreciate the sort of the experience, the service that people give, and I just thought that was an incredible representation of how Pega operate with the military community.
That's remarkable self-awareness, isn't it? Ken, I mean, we keep coming back to Pega Academy, but if you were in the market to look at veterans coming out of particularly the British military at the moment, what skills, what attributes would you be after?
Well, so James talked about something that I didn't serve in the military. I do have, my father did, my uncle did, my father-in-law did. Yes, so I do have I would say an understanding, but not personal experience of serving. I had a conversation with my father who served in battle during the Vietnam conflict. And he had an interesting conversation with me, and he said, if you look at the Gulf War and the way that it was fought, it was really not hand to hand. It was really system interference and system, right? And he said it's the world now is that you don't need a bigger army, you need a more technically savvy army, right? Like I'm saying army just as a general for military, but it's this that used to be like the larger number of actual physical people that you had. Well, the way that the military is built now is to not expect a lot of mass casualties, right? But to use systems to defend and also attack. And you're seeing that with cyber hacking. You're seeing what's happening from some, I would say, bad actors in terms of just that's not really military, but it is focused on defense systems of companies. So the first thing I would say is everybody in the military now is going to understand systems, right? Is going to understand that technology is the way of the world. Whereas when my father served in the 1960s, it was not that way, right? I mean, when you did translation, if you somehow you had a book and you would flip through and say, what are they trying to say? Now you actually have, Google Translate on your phone, and you can actually talk to somebody and get in Farsi and be able to understand in, 72 languages. So it's a different world in terms of the way systems are used. The second thing I would say is the one thing that is not different about the military, and this is, I would say this is consistent with every military institution that I've experienced globally. There are certain things that are taught: discipline, adherence to process, right? And a lot of that came from, hundreds of years ago, where if you didn't follow a chain of command, people died, right? Like you actually had to have respect for. So when people come out of the military, they have an understanding of systems and technology because they have to, and they understand the adherence to process, the importance of predictability, of getting consistent outcomes, of dealing with, of being able to automate and kind of do more with less physical human beings, right? That's kind of, so I think that those types of traits that I just mentioned are completely connected to digital transformation, completely connected to solutions that we sell, because we're trying to do that for our government and military clients, as well as our commercial clients, our nonprofit clients, where they're all trying to do more with less people, using technology, building robotics and AI to be able to get repeatable outcomes. And I don't think the military is any different than that, right? I think that's the way the military operates now. We spend more money, but we don't spend it on people. We spend it on technology, right? And that's kind of the way society is as well.
And that puts you in the market to recruit from the military, really, doesn't it? As a first.
It's a great resource pool, Charlie, because look, we are always in need of Pega skilled individuals in all of our markets. I'll tell you right now, we don't have enough. In any country, in any market, in any vertical, we don't have enough Pega people. We're hiring, our partners are hiring, our clients are hiring. And so given that, and the natural attrition that happens in the military when they hit certain experience levels, where they actually do leave and go into the commercial sector, it's an obvious kind of recruitment path for us, where we're getting people that have this rich set of experience, that have the right personality traits and discipline, and they're all over the world where our clients are. So it really fits well for what we need as well.
Can we go back to Pega Academy and how you would like to see it develop? When did it start? Let's begin with that.
Pega Academy's been around for quite a while. It's been a tool that we've used for training our employees, our implementation consultants, and then we extended that over the years to our partners and our clients. Many of our clients, Charlie, have what we call centers of excellence, where they create a center of a team that is focused on being hyper-enabled on Pega, and therefore they go through the same type of training that our own employees would go through. And in many cases, we have clients and partners that have skills that are well beyond the average Pega skill, right? We have very, very proficient people in the field. So for a veteran that would go through a Pega Academy certification and follow a career path, there's a chance that many of them will become equally or even more technically competent around Pega than Pega employees are themselves, which is great. That's what we love to have. So the Pega Academy has evolved is a different way to think about it. It now is much more interactive. There's kind of chapters and themes. There's different certification levels that you can get. You can kind of start with that business architect and go all the way up to the highest level of certification. And many people do evolve that way. They start as a system architect, and then they become a senior system architect, and then a lead system architect. And they do that connected to their own career progression, right? And the demands that, and there's a, as you get further up in terms of the kind of the certification level, the opportunity for advancement and material increase in your own personal compensation that you can get grows, because there's lots of demand as you kind of go up that pyramid. And there, quite frankly, we don't have enough people at any of the levels in the certification. So we're happy that that we have, James' organization supporting us to be able to help get more Pega certified resources out there. As he mentioned earlier, this is a two-way street, right? We want people to learn Pega because we need those resources in the market to help our clients, because we're growing and we need more certified resources. And of course, all of the veterans kind of retiring from the military or leaving active duty want career paths that are connected to what they've learned. So I do think it's a great marriage.
It is. And also, it's what I like about it is our guys and girls sign up, they get access to the academy, but there is someone, Michael in particular, who's straight on it. The email goes out. Here's what here's all the support and guidance we think you should need. Here's the sort of options available. If you've got any questions, let me know. And straight away they've got someone who is there to get them started. And again, you've got the Pega community, which is fantastic. We've already had one member come back to me and said, brilliant, I could just drop questions in there and I had support from other people. And that's exactly how TechVets works. The great success that we've had has come through our community of having people that know what they're talking about, being on call remotely, whatever time of day, that can just dip into a forum and answer a question. Really, really cool.
Mark, how do your clients use Pega Academy?
Through enablement. I'm a big believer in an informed donor. And we've got a lady here, Admiral Wendy. She's trying to do it for the Navy because they found them in a position where they've pretty much outsourced everything. BAE, as an example, could tell them you're just going to have to spend 10 million on new turbines. And because they've outsourced all that knowledge, she's found, well, we just have to pay the money. So moving to that informed owner status is for me that highly valuable, and it's what low code brings, what Pega Academy brings, is the fact that with inside the military, whether you're a uniformed officer or a non-uniformed officer in what we call the public service, the more you understand about the technology that you've got, even though you've got partners potentially that are helping you from a capability point of view put that project in, the better output, the better that you understand what you're getting at the end, the same terminology, you're on the same page. That's extremely valuable. So Service Australia, I work with Defence. We're working on a COE. You mentioned, Ken, talk about Centre of Excellence. So we're looking at developing that for defence. We're talking about it with Service Australia, which is a huge organisation for us. IP Australia use it. I actually track. So the beauty of Pega Academy, we also can track per entity. So everyone that's got, say, a defence.gov.au email address, I can show all the different activities on all the different badges, because we talked about, and Ken had mentioned, and the business architect, the system architect. There's things like robotics. I mean, the world's your oyster, with what Pega can do. So highly valuable. Our clients are absolutely using it. And on top of that, as my role, I help them with enablement plans about how can they progress? Where are their gaps? Maybe there's some lessons learned. James talked about the community, and that's right. That's the public side. When we have big accounts that have a client success manager like myself, I sit down and say, what else do you want to know? Do you want to know about what's coming out with our latest release? Do you want to, we've brought a new feature in, because that's the other beauty around the platform we have. Every time we pull out a new release, there's not like an additional cost that comes. It's just packed with additional features and better security. It's like a win-win. So it's about letting our customers know all about that.
I feel I got to buy it. It's what a pitch! Fantastic.
Just to follow up on something Mark said, which is a great point. We have visibility through Pega Academy for any organization to be able to see the skill sets and the certifications that they have within their team. They also have the ability to see what partner skill sets they have. So if they're looking at actually doing the work themselves, they could say, we don't have let's use robotics. We don't have a robotics certified person on our team. We really need to get one or two. Or we want to leverage a partner. What's their skill set? What are the people that we're getting from that team? And so it really creates transparency. And when there's transparency, there's motivation for people to elevate their skill sets. And so because there's a vested interest for both the partners and the individuals that work for these companies to elevate, because they'll be in higher demand. And as we know, simple economics says that if there's going to be a lot of demand, there's shorter supply, you can actually reap the reward from that in your own personal compensation.
So like the military, the world over, it's very collaborative.
Yes, it's I would say it's very collaborative, excuse me, but also with a level of security and respect for privacy, right? So that's where we have to be very careful, because some individuals don't want to share what they have. So they want to just look within their own organizations, and other individuals want to publish what their skill sets are. So we've created an environment where you can control the level of what you'd like to expose to other people in the community, but it is a community-driven endeavor, yes.
James, I think we should start to wrap this up now. I feel we've got a picture of Pega Academy, we've got a picture of what Pega does, and we've built an idea about a low-code environment. From a TechVets point of view, could I ask you to perhaps appeal to other companies like Pega and say how you would like them to collaborate with TechVets?
Yeah, of course. I think everything that I do at TechVets, I try to make as lightweight and as simple as possible. I try to remove as many barriers as I.
You are a low-code chief executive.
Yeah, absolutely. We are really lightweight. I'm the only full-time person, and we use a community approach, which means that it's far more efficient. I don't need a massive team. I've got, if I put my volunteers together, I've got millions and millions of pounds worth of salaries there that are offering free advice and guidance. When it comes to working with organizations, the only thing that I need to know is, if they've got a demand that they need to meet, and I can help them by giving them talented people or putting people into jobs, then clearly that's easy to do. And it's, the other aspect of it is around the branding. And it's not about being a company that does great things because veterans are vulnerable. It's about a technology company who is doing wonderful things to bring in more diverse talent into tech, which is incredibly important. It's almost critical, and it's not happening enough. A lot of programs are starting to spin up, but what we need is companies that want that approach to bring more diverse experience and thought to the current problems that we're facing, the future problems that we will face. And working with TechVets to provide access to systems or jobs, whatever it may be.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. I'd like to wrap it up there. Does anybody else have a point they want to make particularly? Ken, are you happy?
There was one last point that we haven't touched on that's different with veterans, and it's a very big lever point for us. And why there's such a huge prioritization for us around this pool of resources. The networking within veterans is tremendous, right? They spend a lot of they've served together, they've been in pressure situations, and as you all know, pressure situations creates very life-lasting relationships. That also happens across countries, right? People that have served in the military from different countries almost have a kinship, so to speak, right? In terms of a respect because the experiences are very similar across all of the different environments, especially those that have been in combat. So I think when you get people that come in and work at Pega that are proud to work at Pega for our partners, for our clients, it's a great network to find other individuals and to encourage them to come in. So that is a very selfish approach from Pega because we want to build the Pega community, but it's also very real. And so I think that isn't the case with all kind of common experience or roles where people are that tightly connected. But in the veteran community, that's a huge attraction for companies like Pega.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Mark and James as well. Thanks for joining us. For our listeners, you can find out more about TechVets and how to become a member by visiting techvets.co or searching for TechVets on LinkedIn. If you are a business owner or work for a company in the tech industry and want to find out how to get more veterans into your team, drop James Murphy a message via LinkedIn. You'll find all the contacts you need in the description for this post. We'll be back next month with our next TechVets podcast. Thanks for joining us.